What does alcohol do to your driving skills and judgment? A. It helps driving skills but harms your judgment. B. It harms both driving skills and judgment. C. It has no effect on either driving skills or judgment. D. It has no effect on judgment but it harms driving skills. Which of the following influences the effects of alcohol? A. The amount of food in the stomach. B. The body weight of an individual. C. How much time passes between drinks. D. All three choices. D. All three choices. Your blood alcohol content (BAC) depends on how much alcohol you drink, how much time passes between drinks, and your weight. Eating before or while you drink helps slow the absorption of alcohol somewhat, but it cannot prevent intoxication or impairment if you have too much to drink. This sign means A. Trucks under 18,000 pounds. Allowed. B. Hill ahead. C. Truck stop ahead. D. No trucks allowed. B. Hill ahead. This sign warns that there is a steep hill ahead. An end school zone sign indicates A. That the speed limit is 20 miles per hour. B. The beginning of a reduced speed zone. C. The increased possibility of encountering pedestrians. D. The end of a reduced speed zone. D. The end of a reduced speed zone. Do not exceed the school zone speed limit during indicated times. The end of a reduced speed school zone will be indicated by an end school zone regulatory sign.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
If a green arrow turns into a solid green light, you A. May still turn, but you must yield to oncoming traffic. B. May no longer turn and must proceed straight. C. Still have the right of way to turn. D. No longer have to turn in the direction that the arrow indicated. A. May still turn, but you must yield to oncoming traffic. If a green arrow turns into a solid green light, you may still turn in the direction that the arrow was pointing, but you must first yield to pedestrians and oncoming traffic. This sign means A. One-way traffic. B. Divided highway ahead. C. Two-way traffic. D. Keep left. B. Divided highway ahead. Warning signs are usually diamond-shaped with black markings on a yellow background. They alert drivers to upcoming hazards. This warning sign indicates that drivers are about to encounter a divided highway. This sign is used to warn drivers about A. Upcoming intersections. B. Road construction. C. An upcoming curve in the road. D. Changes in traffic lanes. C. An upcoming curve in the road. This sign indicates that the road ahead curves to the right. If you stop along the road at night, A. Turn off all your lights. B. Use your parking lights only. C. Use your headlights only. D. Turn on your emergency flashers and leave your low beams turned on. D. Turn on your emergency flashers and leave your low beams turned on. If you stop along the road at night, turn on your emergency flashers and leave your low beam headlights turned on. Be sure that other road users will be able to clearly see your vehicle. If a vehicle using high beams comes toward you, you should look toward. Fill in the blank. Of the road. A. Either side. B. The center. C. The right side. D. The left side. C. The right side. If a vehicle approaching you is using its high beams and fails to dim them, you should glance toward the right side of the road. This will keep you from being blinded by the other vehicle's headlights and will allow you to see well enough to stay on your course until the vehicle passes. Do not pass. A. On a hill or curve. B. When school bus lights are flashing. C. When approaching an intersection. D. All of the above. You are driving at night and another vehicle is approaching from the opposite direction. Your headlights? A. Should be on their high beam setting. B. Should be on their low beam setting. C. Should be off. Use your parking lights. D. May be on either their high or low beam setting. B. Should be on their low beam setting. Do not use your high beam headlights when approaching or following another vehicle at night. Switch to the low beam setting to ensure the safety of everyone on the road. When parking uphill next to a curb, set the parking brake and A. Keep the rear tires against the curb. B. Keep the front tires straight ahead. C. Turn your steering wheel away from the curb. D. Turn your steering wheel toward the curb. C. Turn your steering wheel away from the curb. When parking facing uphill on a street that has a curb, set your parking brake and turn your steering wheel away from the curb. This way, if your vehicle starts to roll, it will roll into the curb. When should drivers use hand-over-hand steering? A. When turning the steering wheel during normal driving activity. B. When anti-lock brakes are engaged. C. When turning at low speeds. D. When backing or when momentarily turning on blinkers, the radio, or windshield wipers. C. When turning at low speeds. Use hand-over-hand steering when turning at low speeds, such as when turning at an intersection or when parking your vehicle. Regarding the steering wheel as a clock face, your left hand should grasp the wheel between 8 and 9 o'clock and your right hand should grasp the wheel between 3 and 4 o'clock. A driver entering public traffic from a driveway or private road. A. Has the right of way. B. Should yield to drivers already on the public road. C. May force their way into traffic. D. Can assume that other drivers will change lanes to make room. B. Should yield to drivers already on the public road. If you are entering traffic from a driveway or private road, you should yield to drivers already on the public road. Merge safely into traffic when you are able to do so. This sign means A. Stop ahead. B. Buggy warning. C. Limited parking. D. Do not block intersection. A. Stop ahead. Warning signs prepare drivers for upcoming road conditions and hazards and are usually yellow with black markings. This sign tells drivers that there is an upcoming stop sign and that they should prepare to come to a complete stop before proceeding. You have the right of way when turning left on which of the following traffic signals? A. A solid green light. B. A flashing yellow light. C. A green arrow pointing left. D. A flashing red light. C. A green arrow pointing left. A green steady arrow means you may pass through the intersection in the direction that the arrow is pointing. Oncoming traffic is required to stop for turning traffic. Night driving can be more difficult than driving during the day because A. Cars overheat more quickly at night. B. Visibility is reduced in the dark. C. It is more likely to be raining at night. D. You are more likely to encounter a motorcycle at night. B. Visibility is reduced in the dark. At night, your field of vision is reduced. To make sure you are able to react to hazards on the roadway, always use appropriate headlights. Drive slowly enough that you are able to stop within the distance that you can see ahead. Driving while being distracted by any activity. A. Is never dangerous. B. Usually causes the driver to react more slowly to hazards. C. Usually causes the driver to drive faster. D. Is only dangerous for young drivers. B. Usually causes the driver to react more slowly to hazards. Distractions cause drivers to react more slowly to traffic and hazards on the roadway. Distracted driving is never safe. When you see or hear an emergency vehicle coming, you should A. Stop immediately and let the vehicle pass. B. Drive as far toward the right side of the road as is safe and stop. C. Proceed slowly and permit the vehicle to pass. D. Keep moving slowly, staying to the right side of the road. B. Drive as far toward the right side of the road as is safe and stop. When driving on a two-lane roadway or undivided highway, you must yield to an emergency vehicle using its lights and/or siren, regardless of the direction from which it is approaching. Immediately drive as near as possible to the right side of the road and stop, taking care not to stop within an intersection. When in a travel lane on the roadway. A. You may stop to drop off passengers. B. You may stop to look up an address. C. You may make a U-turn or back up if you get on the wrong entrance ramp of the freeway. D. Don't stop for any reason. Keep moving until you can safely pull off the road. D. Don't stop for any reason. Keep moving until you can safely pull off the road. You should not stop in a travel lane for any reason. Instead, keep moving until you can safely pull off of the road. If you miss your turn or exit, do not back up. Go to the next turn or exit or where you can safely turn around. Regulatory signs are usually fill in the blank and should always be obeyed. A. White. B. Blue. C. Green. D. Orange. A. White. Regulatory signs regulate the movement of traffic. They are usually white with black markings and must always be obeyed by motorists. What does a single dashed yellow line separating traffic mean? A. Drivers may pass if it is safe to do so. B. Both lanes travel in the same direction. C. Drivers may not pass. D. Drivers may pass, even if it could be dangerous. A. Drivers may pass if it is safe to do so. Yellow lines separate traffic moving in opposite directions. A single dashed yellow line in the center of a road indicates that vehicles traveling in both directions are permitted to pass. Drivers may only begin a pass if they will not interfere with any oncoming traffic. You may drive around the gates at a railroad crossing. A. When the train has passed. B. Under no circumstances. C. When the lights have stopped flashing. D. When other drivers drive around the gates. B. Under no circumstances. You are required to stop at all railroad crossings when signals warn of an approaching train. These signals may include flashing red lights, a lowered crossing gate, a flagger signaling, or a train's audible signal of warning. Do not attempt to go around a lowered gate. When is it acceptable to park in an access aisle next to a reserved handicap parking spot? A. Never. B. When you have a handicap plate or parking placard. C. When all other parking spaces are full. D. When you are only parking for a couple of minutes. A. Never. Parking in an access aisle is prohibited. Misuse of an access aisle is considered a traffic infraction and the driver will be subject to a fine. You are driving along a street and hear a siren. You cannot immediately see the emergency vehicle. You should A. Keep driving until you see the vehicle. B. Pull to the curb and look to see if it is on your street. C. Slow down. Don't stop until you see it. D. Speed up and turn at the next intersection. B. Pull to the curb and look to see if it is on your street. If you hear a siren or an air horn close by but do not know exactly where the emergency vehicle is, safely pull over to the right side of the road and stop until you are sure it is not headed toward you. A speed limit is A. The maximum or minimum legal speed you can travel on a road under dangerous conditions. B. The maximum or minimum legal speed you can travel on a road under ideal conditions. C. The suggested speed to travel on a road under ideal conditions. D. None of the above. When meeting a car with blinding headlights, you should A. Use your bright lights until the other vehicle dims theirs. B. Flash your lights on and off to warn the other driver. C. Dim your lights and then speed up to pass quickly. D. Look toward the right side of the road. D. Look toward the right side of the road. If a vehicle comes toward you with its high beams on, look away from the headlights and toward the right side of the road until the car has passed. This will keep you from being blinded. A diamond-shaped sign. A. Warns of existing or possible hazards. B. Alerts drivers to school zones. C. Alerts drivers to public recreation areas. D. Alerts drivers to upcoming food and gas locations. A. Warns of existing or possible hazards. Diamond-shaped signs warn drivers of existing or potential driving hazards. You will usually see these signs in yellow or orange. When making a turn, drivers should turn A. Into the first available legal lane. B. Into the lane farthest from their direction of travel. C. Into any lane. D. Into the second closest available lane. When you see an emergency vehicle with flashing lights, you must A. Slow down and keep moving in your lane. B. Keep driving in your lane. C. Pull to the right curb and stop. D. Stop exactly where you are. C. Pull to the right curb and stop. When you see an emergency vehicle using its lights or hear it using its siren, you must immediately pull over to the curb or side of the road and stop. This sign means A. Stop sign ahead. B. Lane closed ahead. C. Railroad crossing ahead. D. Traffic signal ahead. It is important to slow down. A. On narrow or winding roads. B. At intersections or railroad crossings. C. When the road is wet or slippery. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. You should always slow down when driving on narrow or winding roads, near intersections, near railroad crossings, on hills, in sharp or blind curves, where there are pedestrians or driving hazards, and when the roads are wet or slippery. Certain highway signs contain information about hazardous conditions. Such signs are known as A. Regulatory signs. B. Warning signs. C. Information signs. D. Guide signs. B. Warning signs. Warning signs advise drivers of potentially hazardous conditions. For your own safety, obey warning signs. Disregarding the information provided by a warning sign may result in an accident due to your negligence. When you see other drivers around you acting or reacting in anger. A. Don't make eye contact. B. Don't react with hand gestures. C. Distance yourself from the situation. D. All of these. D. All of these. When other drivers are behaving angrily, you should take action to physically and mentally distance yourself from the situation. Avoid making eye contact with them, or making body movements or gestures that could provoke them. Slow down, move over, or do whatever you safely can to put yourself out of danger. Coming to a complete stop at an intersection, yielding to cross traffic, pedestrians, and then proceeding through the intersection when the way is clear corresponds with A. A solid red light. B. A flashing yellow light. C. A solid green light. D. A flashing red light. D. A flashing red light. A flashing red traffic light means the same thing as a stop sign. You must come to a complete stop, yield to cross traffic and pedestrians, and then proceed when the way is clear. If one of your tires blows out as you are driving, you should A. Brake hard immediately. B. Try to steer straight while gradually slowing by removing your foot from the gas pedal. C. Maintain your current speed and steer straight. D. Swerve back and forth to alert traffic behind you. B. Try to steer straight while gradually slowing by removing your foot from the gas pedal. If a tire blows out while you are driving, hold the steering wheel tightly and keep the car headed straight down the road. Ease your foot off the gas pedal and do not apply the brakes until you have complete control. When the car is under control, brake gently and pull off the road at the nearest safe location. If your car breaks down on a highway, you should A. Sit in your car and wait for help. B. Use your four-way flashers to warn other drivers. C. Sound your horn at passing motorists. D. Flash your headlights at oncoming traffic. B. Use your four-way flashers to warn other drivers. If your vehicle breaks down on the highway, you should signal before carefully exiting the roadway and turning on your hazard flashers. Get as far off the road as possible and park in a location where other drivers can easily see you. Lift your hood to let other drivers know your vehicle is disabled. Another driver is trying to pass your car. You should A. Pull off the road. B. Signal to the other driver when it is safe for them to pass. C. Check for oncoming traffic and adjust your speed to allow safe passing. D. Speed up. C. Check for oncoming traffic and adjust your speed to allow safe passing. Keep right when another driver begins to pass you on the left. Check for oncoming traffic and adjust your speed to let the passing vehicle move back into the right lane as easily as possible. To reduce the effects of headlight glare at night, you should look A. Straight ahead. B. Over your shoulder. C. At the center of the road. D. To the right edge of the road. D. To the right edge of the road. If oncoming drivers do not dim their headlights for you, keep your eyes on the right side of the road ahead. Do not look directly at the oncoming headlights because the glare may blind you for several seconds. You are stopped in a line of vehicles waiting at a stop sign. If there is no cross traffic after the vehicles ahead have passed through the intersection, you A. May proceed through the intersection without stopping again. B. Must stop again at the stop sign or stop line before proceeding. C. May slowly roll past the stop sign. D. May follow the vehicle directly ahead of you without stopping. B. Must stop again at the stop sign or stop line before proceeding. You must always bring your vehicle to a complete stop and yield to approaching traffic before proceeding past a stop sign. Don't feel pressured by surrounding traffic to avoid making a complete stop.